Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're going to be talking all about, construction safety. Yeah. And more specifically, like fall protection, those OSHA regulations that everyone loves so much.
Yeah.
And our listeners have sent in a copy of the latest,
Oh, cool.
The ECFR, 29 CFR Part 1926, Subpart M Fall Protection.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
As of October 28th, 2024.
Right.
And this document, it's pretty intense, but we're gonna break it down for you today.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a lot to digest, but
And it even has
important
appendices like determining roof widths.
Oh, wow.
And even like a whole sample fall protection plan.
That's great.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So let's imagine for a second you're about to start working on this, construction site.
Right.
Maybe you're even overseeing the safety protocols there. What do you absolutely need to know from all of these regs?
Yeah, that's the key question, right?
Yeah, and that's what we're going to figure out today.
Yeah.
And luckily, we have our safety expert to guide us through all this.
Happy to help. I mean, these regulations are really there to protect people, make sure everyone gets home safe.
Right. So let's just jump right into it. This document starts off kind of outlining its scope and the application, and that's section 1926.50. And it's pretty clear that fall protection is not just for the daredevils on skyscrapers. We're talking about all kinds of different construction activities, roofing, excavations, all of that.
It runs the gamut, pretty much.
It does, yeah.
Anything where there's a risk of falling.
Exactly.
That's what they're trying to address.
And it's not even just falling from a high place. It's like a lot of different things.
Yeah, like even something as simple as a ladder. If you're not using it properly,
right, that
could be a fall hazard too.
Okay, so this subpart, it doesn't cover every single scenario.
Right, exactly. Like, for example,
say scaffolding.
Scaffolding, yeah.
Cranes, steel erections.
Those all have their own sets of rules.
Really? Even working on electric transmission lines?
Yeah, because the hazards are so specific. They need their own tailored regulations.
So it's like choose your own adventure.
Kind of, yeah.
Find the way. Path.
Safety regulations. That's so interesting.
Exactly.
Okay, so this next section, it's all about definitions, 1926.500B. And some of these terms are really interesting, like dangerous equipment. What comes to mind when you think of that?
Well, it's not always about giant vats of molten metal, although those certainly qualify.
Right.
But in this context, it could be something as common as like an electrical panel.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because remember, even everyday objects become hazards at a height.
True. And then there's low slope roof and steep roof.
Yeah.
Those seem pretty straightforward, but they actually go on to define the exact angle
that separates those two.
Okay.
And then there's this one that I always thought it was just about like falling, but it's free fall distance.
Yeah. That's an important distinction.
Okay, so what's the difference?
So free fall distance refers specifically to the distance you fall before your safety system engages.
So like if you're...
Think of it like bungee jumping.
Oh, okay.
It's that heart-stopping moment before the cord goes taut.
So a longer free fall means a greater chance of injury.
Exactly.
Even with a harness.
Yeah. Because the forces involved are so much greater.
Wow. I never even thought about that. So these definitions are super important then.
They are, because understanding those nuances is key to applying those regulations correctly.
Okay, I'm starting to see the bigger picture here. Yeah. Now let's get to the heart of the matter. 1926.501, duty to have fall protection. And this section is where things start to get very, very specific.
This is where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah.
It's not about waiting for an accident and then reacting. It's about being proactive.
Right.
Anticipating hazards and putting those safety measures in place beforehand.
It's like the ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Exactly.
Yeah, but in this case, it's more like an ounce of prevention is worth avoiding, like a life-altering injury.
That's a good way to put it.
And they don't mince words here. Like, check out this line. B1, each employee on a working surface with an unprotected side or edge, which is 6 feet, 1.8 meters or more above a lower level, shall be protected.
That shall is doing a lot of heavy lifting.
It is.
It's not a suggestion.
Right.
It's a requirement.
Yeah.
And then they go on to outline acceptable methods.
Yeah.
Like guardrail systems, safety nets, personal fall arrest systems.
And then they list a bunch of specific scenarios where fall protection is required.
Oh, yeah. They really try to cover all the bases.
Yeah, hoist areas, holes, ramps, runways, excavations. They thought of everything.
It's all about creating that safety net, so to speak.
Right.
To protect workers.
Okay, so we covered the general duty to provide fall protection. But how do all these different protection systems actually work?
Well, that's where 1926.502 comes in. It really dives deep into the details of each system.
Yeah.
You know, the design, construction criteria, performance criteria, all of that.
It's like they really took that phrase, measure twice, cut once, to a whole new level.
Absolutely. It's all about precision and safety.
Yeah. And speaking of measurements, did you know that guardrail systems have to be a very specific height?
Oh, yeah. 42 inches plus or minus 3, to be exact.
Wow. And that's not just some random number they came up with.
No. It's based on years of research, analysis, making sure the guardrail is high enough to prevent falls, but also, allow for comfortable working conditions.
It's amazing how much thought goes into these regulations. Speaking of fascinating details, safety nets have to have mesh openings, no larger than 6 inches. I guess you wouldn't want to drop your phone through that, right?
That's right. And it's not just about phones. Even small tools can become really dangerous projectiles if they're dropped from a height.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine a wrench falling from like 6 stories up. Could cause some serious damage.
Oh, yeah.
Or worse.
Sobering thought. It really highlights the importance of tool safety and just constant awareness on a construction site.
Absolutely.
Here's something that might surprise some of our listeners. Remember those old school body belts for fall arrest?
Oh, yeah. The ones that kind of just squeezed your waist?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are out, right?
Thankfully, those are gone.
When did they decide to get rid of those?
I think it was back in 1998.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they found that. Full body harnesses are much safer. They distribute the force of a fall more effectively, reduces the risk of serious injury.
So it's out with the belts and in with the harnesses. Now, let's talk about those appendices that we mentioned earlier. Specifically, Appendix E, the Sample Fall Protection Plan. This seems like a lifesaver. For those tricky situations where those standard rules don't quite fit.
Yeah, exactly. When those conventional methods, like your guardrails or safety nets, aren't feasible, or maybe even create more hazards, that's where the fall protection plan comes in.
Oh, interesting.
A more tailored approach.
So it's like a custom-made suit of armor for those really challenging situations.
Yeah, you could think of it that way.
And they actually provide 2 sample plans in here. One for precast concrete construction, and then another one for residential construction. Yeah. Why those 2 specifically?
Well, those are 2 areas where conventional fall protection might be impractical or even create new risks.
How so?
Well, think about precast concrete construction. You've got workers connecting these massive members, having them tied off could actually increase the risk of entanglement or being struck by moving components.
Oh, wow. I see what you mean.
Yeah, it's all about finding the right balance between protection and not introducing additional hazards.
So what does this fall protection plan actually involve?
Well, it starts with a thorough hazard assessment conducted by a qualified person. And then the plan needs to be meticulously documented, outlining specific control measures for each hazard.
Okay.
And crucially, it has to be supervised by a competent person on site to make sure it's being followed correctly.
It sounds incredibly comprehensive.
It is. It's really about taking a tailored approach to safety.
Can you give me some examples of how these plans address specific challenges?
Sure. Let's take residential construction. Roofing tasks often present unique challenges.
Okay.
Imagine trying to install roof trusses while wearing
a bulky harness
and trying to maneuver around a web of safety nets.
Yeah.
It's a recipe for disaster.
Right.
So the sample plan breaks down the task into smaller, more manageable steps.
Oh, okay.
Outlining specific safety procedures for each stage.
So it's like a choreographed dance of safety measures.
Yeah, carefully designed to protect workers at each step.
And these plans, they don't stop at roofing. They address all kinds of different challenging tasks, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Erecting beams, installing floor and roof members, even grouting hollow core slabs.
Yeah.
It's pretty comprehensive.
The level of detail is impressive. Now, these sample plans, they're a great starting point, but I imagine they need to be adapted to each specific work site. Whatever jet.
Absolutely. Every work site has its own unique set of hazards and challenges.
Right.
So the sample plans provide a framework, but it's crucial to tailor them to your specific circumstance.
So it's like a recipe. You can use the basic ingredients, but you got to adjust the amounts, maybe add a few of your own spices to create a dish that's perfectly suited to your taste.
Exactly. And the goal is always to create the safest possible working environment.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, from the duty to provide fall protection to all the intricacies of the specific system and even the fall protection plans. It's been really informative. But I have a feeling we've only scratched the surface of this multifaceted topic.
Yeah, there's always more to dig into.
Right.
Especially when it comes to, safety.
Exactly. We haven't even touched on, the training requirements, Section 1926.503. I mean, knowing the rules is one thing, but putting them into practice safely and effectively,
right,
that's a whole other ballgame.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why this section really emphasizes comprehensive training.
Yeah.
And certification for anyone involved in fall protection. I mean, you wouldn't want someone learning how to use a harness for the first time while hanging 20 stories in the air.
Right. Oh, my goodness, no. So it's not just about checking boxes. It's about, equipping these workers with the knowledge and the skills they need to actually stay safe,
Exactly. Real-world application.
Yeah. Okay, before we wrap things up, I want to circle back to something we talked about a little bit earlier. The role of technology in all of this. We've seen such crazy advancements in other industries. So how do you see technology further enhancing, fall protection in the future?
Well, imagine this. You're on a job site, and instead of manual inspections, you have a drone equipped with all these high-resolution cameras and sensors, mapping the entire area, identifying potential fall hazards before workers even step foot on the roof.
Wow.
Yeah, and then that data could be instantly relayed to workers' wearable devices, alerting them to potential risks in real time.
That's incredible. It's like having a virtual safety net.
Kind of, yeah.
That's constantly scanning the environment. Okay, what about those situations where conventional methods just aren't practical? Could technology offer any solutions there?
Absolutely. Exoskeletons, for example, could provide workers with additional support and stability, reducing the risk of falls in those physically demanding tasks.
Oh, that's cool.
We might even see smart scaffolding systems that automatically adjust based on real-time conditions, ensuring a stable platform, even in challenging environments.
It's really mind-blowing
Yeah.
to think about all the possibilities. It feels like we're on the cusp of a safety revolution.
Yeah, I think so too.
Driven by all this new technology.
Yeah, it's a really exciting time. But even with all this amazing technology, we can't forget about the human element.
Right.
Technology is a powerful tool, but it's not a substitute for, well-trained, vigilant workers who understand the risks, follow safe practices,
Right.
and are empowered to speak up
Yeah.
if they see something unsafe.
That's such a good point. Technology can enhance safety, but it can't replace human judgment.
Right, exactly.
Okay, well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up. This deep dive into construction fall protection regulations, we've covered a lot, from basic requirements to all the specifics of the fall protection systems, and even the potential of technology. It's been a great conversation.
Yeah.
Hopefully. This has given you a solid foundation
Okay.
for understanding, the complexities of fall protection.
Yeah.
And remember, this is just a starting point. We always encourage you to delve a little bit deeper into that source document, explore the appendices, consult with safety experts to make sure you're doing everything right.
Safety is an ongoing process.
And that's it for this week's episode of The Deep Dive. We'll see you next time.
See you later.